Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, there are a dozen species from other planets that are watching us right now as we speak. Telepathically, they are watching us and guiding us. Um, they are partially protecting not only us, but they're making sure that we don't kill ourselves. First of all, like we won't have a nuclear war. They're also making sure that there's no threat from outside that can cut, like an asteroid or a comet or a rogue planet. That they steer these things away from us
Right.
if there's anything that becomes a threat. But they do it in a way where it's subtle and we don't notice it, and then they telepathically can alter our thought process in a way where we don't know what they're doing. They can also manipulate us in a way where they can kind of guide us towards a goal without us realizing that it's being done.
Welcome to Souls on Tap. I'm your host, Julianne Thon. In today's episode, I sit down again with Andrew Bauer to continue one of the most detailed and profound near-death experience stories ever shared on the show. In this episode, Andrew takes us inside his second NDE, exploring the moment of crossing over once more, what unfolds beyond the veil, and the extraordinary visions he encounters in the universe. From insights into humanity's future to encounters with other beings and realms, Andrew shares revelations that stretch the mind and awaken the spirit. He also dives deeper into the nature of our energy body and what it reveals about who we truly are. This is a powerful continuation, and you won't want to miss it. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Julianne. I'm glad to be with you again.
Yeah, it's fun, it's interesting, it's bizarre, it's wonderful, all in one, right?
Oh,
Uh, uh,
uh, like I always say, my first NDE is like the introduction thing where I kind of got used to it, and it was like going somewhere for the first time. But then the second one, I already had that part down pat. But then it was like a decade's worth of experiences and knowledge and information versus less than like a year the first time. So it was so much more involved.
let's talk about how your second near-death experience began, and in what way did it feel different from your first experience the moment you crossed over?
Okay, so this time, like the first time, just as a kind of a recap, the first one was caused by a virus. The second one was caused by a head injury. I was at a camp about 2 hours away from my home in Western Massachusetts at the time, and unfortunately, I found out that one of the many bullies I ran into as a kid had come to the same camp. And when he found out I was there, he headed straight for me, basically knocked me backwards over our beds. And this was a camp that used to be a farm and had been converted it had been basically given to this camp because the child, I guess, had died young of the family that used to own that farm. And so they donated it to this camp because he had had great experiences with them. So it was kind of, a way to thank them. And so the three-story barn that they had on the property was converted over into like first level was eating areas, offices, things like that. Second floor was where the staff slept, and then the top floor, or what used to be the loft, was where the kids slept. And it came with an A-frame roof. So if you can imagine that, obviously it was angled, and then on top of that, it was supported by these 4x4 wood beams, all every couple feet or so. And these beams had a corner that jutted out into the room, and so basically the top was flat, bottom was flat, so the roof kind of sat on top of that and used it as supports. And when he knocked me backwards, he hit me kind of mid torso, and it kind of bent me forward. And what that ended up creating was it left my brain stem directly to impact one of the corners of one of those beams. So, for those who aren't familiar, the brainstem is the basic bodily function controller of the body. It controls your heart, your lungs, and so this impact shut that down immediately. I was dead before I hit the floor that quickly. The other time it was kind of a slow transition. This one was instant.
Mm.
So I was automatically in a corner of the room. I could see the kids were panicking. The kid who had hit me ran. Of course, he was afraid of being caught. I understand he was caught later on when they found out who he was. Uh, the kids yelled for people to come. One of the counselors came running, who thankfully knew CPR. And so he started performing that while somebody else called 911 for an ambulance. And where we were was almost 5 minutes away from the hospital, which doesn't sound like a lot of time unless you're dead. And when you're dead, 5 minutes is a long time.
Hmm.
So by the time the ambulance got there, I'd already been down almost a full 5 minutes. Um, so then the medics had to carry a stretcher up 3 flights of stairs to get to me, and then put me on the stretcher while one of the medics was basically running alongside it, giving chest compressions, because at the time that was the only thing that was they were worried about, was to make sure your heart was still pumping. Um, until they got down to the bottom floor, at which point he took over the chest compressions, and the other one of the other guys took over the breathing
Hmm.
through a bag. And once they got me down to the bottom floor, they got me in the ambulance. And then it was on the way to the hospital that they got a heart rhythm started again, about a minute away from the hospital. But I had been down almost 8 minutes, about 7.5 to 8 minutes by the time they revived me or got heart restarted. And the whole time, like I said, I was outside of my body instantly. As soon as I hit, it was like there was no transition at all. It was like I was in my body, I was out of my body that quickly. So um, I followed it along. As soon as they got me into the ambulance, that's when I felt my guide, his voice again, the same one that I'd heard the first time.
Your ET
And
guide, right?
huh?
This is your
I'm sorry.
ET guide, right?
Yes, yeah, he is a good way to put it. He's from a planet on the other side of the galaxy. We can't see the system that he's from because it's blocked by the big central hub of the galaxy, where there's a lot of light and dust, and so we can't see through it with our current technology. But anyway, yeah, his voice came to me, but this time I had an idea what was happening. I knew I was dead. There was no doubt in my mind. I knew I was having a near death experience. I recognized my guide's voice. So everything this time around was more, okay, I've been here before, and so I know what's coming. So I knew I was going to be brought up to wherever they were. I would, you know, go blank for a moment, and then I would wake up in this room, which I call the room of what do you call it? Where you get acclimated, basically. So I call it the acclimation room. Um, and whereas the first time I needed a little bit of time to adjust to being dead, I had never been dead before, didn't have any concept of death. By this point, I was 14, so I had a lot more of a concept of it. I lost a really good friend to a drunk driver just 2 years before, so I had a direct experience of death where it literally happened right in front of me. So I knew, plus I had the previous near-death experience, so I had an idea what was going on. So I didn't need the acclimation like I needed the first time. I could just go. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Can we go on? you know. And so they went straight into the life review, and kind of like the first time, there really wasn't much to see. I mean, even at 14, I hadn't really done a whole lot. I'd done a few stupid things like all teenagers do, but nothing really that bad. So, um, but the one thing that kind of stuck in my mind, and this is where things kind of get really dicey for me, is I had already experienced 7 years worth of bullying. But I knew it was coming because I had been told during my first one that, here's like a list of events that are coming in your life, as far as bullying, as far as injuries go, what they would cause, all the way down. So I had a whole list of things to follow along with, and most of them had already happened by this point, at 14. But the one thing I had never thought to ask the first time around, of course, being 7 years old, is why? Why am I going through this? And because I wasn't sure, like, did I just sign up for this? Is this something like, you know, was I some like evil dictator in a past life? Like, what did I do? Who did I who did I piss off? Basically, is my mindset. Like, who did I piss off to get this?
Like you felt like
And
you felt like you were being punished then, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like I was being punished. I felt like I was being tortured, and I
Mm.
didn't understand, like, what did I do? Why would I go? Why would I choose this? And my guide, kind of the way he looked at me, kind of stopped me in my tracks, and his voice was really, in my head, was like really soft, and it kind of, it made me kind of stop and sit back and like, wait a minute, something isn't right. He looked at me and he said, we can show you why if you really want to know, but it will not be a pleasant experience for you. And I guess I should have taken that as a red flag. I didn't, because I was so determined. I guess I need, almost people, I need to know the why of things more so than anything else. So when I don't understand that, I need to know. And so even if I had sat back and said, "Wait a minute, let me red flag this," I probably would have still asked to see, just because I needed to know. Knowing something terrible is, for me, better than not knowing
Mhm.
and wondering.
I agree. Same with me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably that way. Um, so what they did is they put me back in the same life review pod that I had just gotten out of, and Uh, this time, wait, what I understand later on is the life review pods. Each one of us has a unique energy signature. Like, we're all energy based beings, but each one of us has a unique signature, like a fingerprint. And this is how we recognize each other on the other side, because we're not in a body anymore. And it's also how the life reviews and everything else are programmed, like how our NDEs even start. They're tailored directly to each person that's having them. Because if you think about it, if you were a highly religious person and you had a scientific experience, you wouldn't accept that. If you were a scientific person, you had a religious experience, you wouldn't accept that. So these experiences are tailored to each individual, so that they accept the fact not only that they're dead, but that they're having a profound experience, and so they'll relax and adjust to it a lot faster. So uh, anyway, I was put back in the life review machine, and this machine was able to read me, I guess, telepathically, the same way that beings can read our energy. It reads your energy, and every life that you've lived, are living, or will live is tied directly to that energy signature. So that's how we are able to access any point in time or space within, anything, anywhere we've ever been, anywhere we're ever going to be, things that we're going to do in future lifetimes, how we're part of a plan, things like that. Those
So
are all tied directly to our energy signature.
is that energy signature tied to the Akashic records?
That I don't know. I don't know very much about that part. I've heard people speak of that. I haven't read enough to know the answer to that, so I
Okay.
wouldn't want to give you a bad answer.
Just curious.
uh, yeah, I probably should read more up on that. Um, but I will say that the energy signature we have literally is like, if you can think of like your entire overall life as being this giant computer file where inside that file folder there's like a billion little documents, and each one of those documents is a lifetime. So that's kind of how your energy signature is set up, where you have access to all these lifetimes, and they're organized in the order you have them time wise. And so you can access, just like you would on a computer, just whatever file you want to access, you bring up that file, click on it, boom, you're in it. And just like any other life review, uh, you can see the entire lifetime in its entirety. You can, experience every moment. You not only experience it from your perspective, but also from the perspective of the people that you say and do things to. So you get to see the down the line effects of the things that you do. That's why life reviews, I think, are probably one of the most not only impactful but transformative experiences that near-death experiencers have. I have talked to hundreds of people over the last 40 years, and to almost to a person, a life review is one of the things that they mention as being something that sticks with them. And for me, it definitely has. So the this life review was different than my first two were, where I realized right away that I was not in this life. And like in the very first one, uh, I was in Switzerland, and it was older. I could tell it was not like a modern day look to the environment. And I quickly realized it was the 1700s, and that's when
Mm.
I had first come to Earth. I found out later that these three lifetimes I was about to see were my first three Earth-based lifetimes, that I have lived other lifetimes on other planets, same as most beings have. In fact, there's literally millions of beings right now on Earth who don't even realize that they have come here from elsewhere, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get to a little bit later. But anyway, so I saw that this lifetime was in Switzerland. I was a natural healer in this lifetime. My wife was also a natural healer, but in a different aspect. And so we kind of combined our strengths and became kind of traveling medical, traveling healers. So we would go around to different people's homes, and whatever ailed them, we would find natural herbs and remedies that would help cure them or alleviate their symptoms. And eventually we had three children. All three of them, two boys and a girl, eventually followed in our footsteps. In fact, after we both had passed on, they ended up forming what became the first official hospital in that region of Switzerland, which is the Zermatt region, which is where the Matterhorn is, if you're familiar with that mountain.
Mhm.
And so, basically, the reason I was shown this lifetime, I found out later on, was because this was my version of a perfect life. I followed my life plan to the T. In fact, I actually accomplished more than I had set out to do. So it was showing me what happens when you do what you're supposed to do all the way through your life,
So
and
you're
how
talking
good.
the past life in 1700, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, I was shown three separate lifetimes, but this first one I was shown to giving me an idea of what a perfect lifetime looked like when you follow your life plan and do everything you've meant to do, or even more than you're meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you how much you can impact people in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was shown that was because the next lifetime, the basically the middle one of the three, was the exact opposite. In this lifetime, I was a math and financial genius, basically. Um, okay, I at a very young age, I was able to teach myself math that most kids tend to learn in middle school or high school.
Mm.
And my father was a banker for 30 some years in New York City, and I was born in a little town in uh, kind of like between New York City and Albany. That was at the time a very kind of a little popular spot for people who were retiring from New York City to live. And so, because my father had been in banking and I had this financial gift, as soon as I graduated high school, he sent me down to his old uh, protege in New York City, who was also a financial guru, so to speak. And that's because at this time, this was in the 1800s, um, you didn't go to school to become a banker; you apprenticed with under someone else's tutelage.
Right.
So you can imagine the first lifetime. I was born sometime in the mid to late 1690s. Lived until the 1770s, somewhere. Passed on at a relatively old age. Um, then I was born again about 20 or so years later, so mid 1790s, and lived till the mid 1840s. And I'll get to why that one was shortened
Well,
compared to the first one.
you also came back pretty quickly too. A lot of
Yes.
people who've had NDE, they say that, sometimes they'll take as long as 100 years to come back, or longer
Oh yeah.
sometimes. But you were
Yeah,
20,
I've talked to
20
people who
years
have
and you
gone
were
like 400 or 500 years between lives.
right. Hmm. Right.
But I guess because my purpose in being here and here as in on Earth is more of I need to kind of be here on a regular basis rather than go long periods between lifetimes. And so I tended to regenerate, well, my next lifetime fairly quickly. I took just enough time um, to kind of process my last lifetime. Okay, what do I need to do the next one? Let's go right back. And that's kind of how my mindset was.
Hmm.
So, like I said, I was born in the 1790s, died in 1840s. But what I was supposed to do with this life was use my financial and math abilities to get families loans for homes, get them into their first home, a home that they could pass on to future generations, set up loans for like their kids to go to college, get them out of debt. In other words, help people financially in that way. And what I did instead is I let my ego and my narcissism, which stem from
Mm.
that, get the best of me.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, uh-oh is understatement. Basically, I alternated for the next almost 20 years between embezzling money from the bank that I was working for and setting up loans and other financial things in a way that benefited the bank, but that screwed over their customers.
Mm.
But it didn't do it right away. It would do it down the line. By the time they figured it out, it was too late. And so what ended up happening was I got rich. My my I had my wife. We had a home in the Upper East Side, which at the time was like the Upper West Side is now, the kind of the place to live for the rich and well-to-do. And I also rented an apartment in the trying to think of the name of the area, not Soho, but near there, Greenwich Village. Sorry, which was also an up and coming area, and that's where I kind of hosted parties for the people that I was either garnering the favor of or doing things for. And so a lot of people were coming to me to do things under the table that were not legal. And so I was making people a lot of money that they would then put in overseas accounts or
Mm.
stash somewhere. And but I did it while screwing over a lot of people. What
Wow.
ended up happening was these families that I harmed. Um, this is the part that I think broke me more than anything was I had to watch and feel everything that they went through as their families were destroyed, as they
Mm.
were evicted from their homes. Husbands and wives had to divorce because they couldn't afford to stay together. Children ended up on the streets. And in New York City, I can tell you that is a not it's not a place you want to be on the streets, not any time because of the cold and the heat and in summer and the cold in the winter. These kids were begging for food, begging for loose change, anything that they could get from people who were passing by in the street. Um, I remember there was this one boy that I think stuck with me more than anything else, where I remember he was in an alley and he was looking at his reflection in a pane of glass and he was really gone. He looked like an Auschwitz survivor. And the angle that he was looking at, where he's looking at himself, but I was seeing it through his eyes. It felt like he was staring into my soul. And I, like at that point, I screamed, "Please make this stop. I can't stand this anymore." And my guide, his voice came to me and he said, "You asked to see this. And it cannot be stopped. Once it's started, you have to see it through. This is what you asked to see." And I don't know how I made it through that. I barely even registered the third lifetime, which I'll get to in a second. But that that one boy especially, but all the kids is more than anybody else. Um, what I had to watch them go through, how they suffered, where a lot of them died young of exposure or starvation or both, and I had to feel every one of them intimately, like I was suffering with them. And by the time I got through that part of it, like I had eventually I was caught, thank God, um, and I was tried and convicted multiple financial crimes. I had several co-conspirators who were convicted right alongside me. I was sent to, at the time, Sing Sing prison, which was at the time brand new, but still around now. Um, and I was working in the prison laundry. And what I didn't know was that several of the families that I had destroyed, a lot of the men ended up uh, stealing or robbing people to get money to try and feed their families, doing whatever they could to survive. And so a lot of them ended up in prison, either in debtor's prison, which was still a thing at that time.
Right.
A lot of people think that they were either never existed or they were abolished by this point, but they weren't. They weren't abolished until the mid 1830s, actually, by the federal government, and then the states kind of did it before and after that. But so some ended up in debtor's prison, but some ended up in the same prison I was in. And when they found out I was there, three of them came after me in the laundry one afternoon and used homemade shanks or knives that they had made themselves to stab me to death.
Uh-oh.
And so that's how I died. That's why I
Wow.
died younger. I was in my early 50s when I died. Um, and like most prisoners whose families couldn't afford, couldn't afford to bury them, or didn't want to, or indigents who just didn't have money. Most of those types of people were shipped off to a place called Hart's Island, which is out in the Long Island Sound, uh, kind of southeast of the city. And they have a place called Potter's Field there that has become a landmark since then. And that's where they buried a lot of people like myself in unmarked graves. So somewhere in that place is what's left of that being that I was.
Wow.
My wife divorced me while the trial was still going on. She took our two kids, and I don't remember if she moved out of state or moved to Canada. She moved somewhere where I couldn't find her. When, but at the time, I was glad she wasn't being affected. She had people that were basically coming after her because she was associated with me, and my trial made a lot of news, basically. So it was like a Bernie Madoff kind of situation
Mm-hmm.
where everybody knew what was going on. But yeah, so that one I died, and I remember the first time around I was even more broken than the second time, but the second time I was gone. Um, and I remember when I came to the other side, the first thing I wanted to do was go right back to like I need to fix this. And my first instinct was to end my life early. Somehow end my life. I figure eye for an eye, life for a life. I took these. I destroyed the lives of these people. I'll give my life in return. But I wasn't thinking of them particularly when I did this. It was more like my guide pointed out later. He said, "You're the reason why these things you were doing weren't working is because you were thinking about yourself, thinking about ending your pain, making yourself feel better. It was never about them. And as long as it's always about you, your plan will never work." And so this life, I came back in 1900, either Indiana or Iowa. I don't remember what. I know it was one of those two states. Um, and basically, towards the end of World War One, if you're familiar with that part of history, there was a massive epidemic worldwide called the Spanish flu,
Mm-hmm.
which took millions of lives. And I had myself get this disease and die at 17. I was several months away from being 18 at the time, but it was at the end of World War II, basically. Oh, I'm sorry, World War One. World War One. And so when I came back to the other side again, when I looked, it felt like nothing had changed. If anything, everything had gotten worse by this life that I had just given up. It felt like nothing had changed. And I couldn't understand. Like I was still panicking inside. Like I need, all I could feel is my soul screaming out, "You need to fix this now. You need to do something." But I didn't know what to do. Um, and there's this area on the other side that some people have seen and have mistaken for hell, but it's not. And the reason I'll say that is because I've been shown and told this directly that this was not, there is no such place as the hell that people think of when they think of that word. And what this area is beings who have chosen to cut themselves off from other beings. They sever their connection to other beings. They sever their connection to the light and love from the being that you can call God or source or whatever you choose to call it. I call it source. It's my personal name for it. But um, they choose to cut themselves off because they either think they need to be punished or they don't deserve the light and love that is everywhere on the other side. And so by cutting themselves off from this, they're miserable and alone and in darkness. And so it can seem like a hellish experience because they cut themselves off from the best of the other side while they're doing this. But it is all by their choice. They're not forced into this area. Nobody puts them there. There's no punishment. There's no eternal torment. There's nothing like that on the other side. So everything we do to ourselves. We judge ourselves. We punish ourselves if it happens. So I had nearly put myself in this place after that third lifetime. Luckily, I went to my guide first, and I explained like I feel like I need to put myself in this place, and he immediately stopped me and he said, "Don't. That's the wrong choice to make." And I said, "Why? I've tried everything else. I don't know what else to do." And he said, just as selfish to put yourself in this place as it was to give your life in a meaningless gesture." He said, like the last life that you just lived meant nothing. You didn't do anything. You didn't affect anyone's lives outside of your own. You didn't accomplish anything. That life might as well have never existed for all the impact that it had. And that's why it didn't do anything. It didn't fix anything because it didn't mean anything. You see, you have to do something meaningful to um, to fix something this bad or this major. And so I asked him, I said, "What do I need to do? Just tell me, I'll do anything." And he said, "There's only one way to do this, and it's called living a life of atonement." And he emphasized that word. And I asked him what he meant by that. And he said, atoning normally means, you know, doing something as kind of a form of punishment or, uh, to even things out. But he said it's not about that. What you have to do is you voluntarily go back to Earth and you choose a life path that puts you in uh, in the path of a lot of pain and suffering. But it's more than just the pain and suffering. It's because anybody can go through pain and suffering, and most people, when they go through that, they tend to, um, they have the whole misery loves company thing, where when they're miserable and they're hurting, they want other people to hurt.
All right. I,
And
I
he
see it
said
all
that
the
you
time.
can't. Yeah, I do too. And he said you can't allow yourself to do that. In order to truly atone, it's not just about going through the pain and suffering at a level that is equivalent to what you caused to the people you hurt before. It's about taking that pain and suffering, internalizing it, and then transforming it into compassion, sympathy, and empathy for other beings.
Right.
And he said you have to make that your path, you have to make that your goal. And you do that with everything that you go through. And if you do this combined path of atonement for this lifetime, he said that will do more than all this other stuff that you've been trying to do. And so that's why he and I basically sat down, if you want to call it that, and crafted this lifetime for me to live. That's why I was going through the bullying, why I was going through all the injuries, all the pain that I've been through in my life, the head injuries, the back injury, the everything that I've dealt with is all part of this path. And I mean, I'll kind of just jump ahead for a second. When I came back from this near-death experience, knowing that, changed my entire life from that point forward.
In a good way?
Oh, in a very good way. I stopped, feeling sorry for myself immediately. Um, it took 4 months for me to recover. Come when I came back, because I experienced a decade's worth of memories and experiences on the other side during this near-death experience. So um, when I came back, I didn't know how to be human. I've been used to telepathic communication, instant teleportation from one place to another. All you had to do was think about where I was and where I wanted to be, and boom, I'm there. Creation was the same way, instantaneous.
Right. How long,
Um,
excuse me, but how long were
sure.
you unconscious or dead, so to speak?
About 7.5 minutes.
Wow. All this in 7.5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
There's,
I mean, even just the acclimation alone, even the short acclimation would have taken longer than that. So,
yeah.
but I had basically 5 years where I spent exploring the entire galaxy. Another five that was split between learning about the future of humanity and my part in it, and the future of the universe, how it so-called ends and begins again. And so that was a decade worth of stuff right there, not counting what I just talked about. So I came back with all this bouncing around in my head because I literally asked to come back with all the knowledge and information that I had been given during my two near death experiences because I knew I would need it to do what I came here to do, which was to help people not only to understand death and the other side better, but to lose their fear of it. Because the fear of death is one of the worst sufferings that humanity plagues itself with. Think about all the people who spend their whole lives avoiding death, or at the end they put their family members on machines trying to keep them alive just a few minutes longer, and it's not living when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand, and people just don't understand. People keep their family members alive, not for their family members, but for themselves.
And I also think that in a lot of cases, Andrew, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but organized religion has a lot to do with that too,
It
because
does.
they want to keep the individual steeped in fear,
Yep.
and where they are not the ones that can make the decisions. It has to be a God or Jesus or whatever. If we're talking Christianity, and
Right. Which in this country mostly you are.
so there's a lot of fear, like if you know they just don't understand the beauty of what's on the other side, and how the simulation is really here in this incarnation on earth. The reality is on the other side.
Yeah. It's more like the other side. I've heard it described this way, and I can tell you for a fact it is this way, is more real than anything in this world could possibly be. Colors are more vivid. They have sounds to them. Like each color has its own frequency of sound. So when you like in a field of multicolored wildflowers, it sounds like a heavenly chorus. And it took me 40 years to find a sound that was close to it. I finally found it just a couple months ago. Um, but it's not only more real, but if there's if there is a hell, I mean, if you want to believe in a hell, this planet, our life here, is more like hell than anything on the other side could possibly be. We torture ourselves, we torture each other, we hurt each other on a daily basis on this planet. We have since we existed. And so that is worse than anything you could possibly go through on the other side. The
I,
worst near death experience is better than the best lifetime on this planet. And I don't say that facetiously, I mean it literally.
mhm.
Even the people who experience a bad time during their near death experience don't want to come back to this because this is still worse.
Hmm.
That's how good it is there.
Yeah, I have heard other near death experiencers say the same thing, that not only is there nothing to fear, but that the difficulties that we encounter are here on this earth, not there
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah, because like here we're in a body, we're limited. We can't, like, everything that we experience, even love, which is the most powerful energy in the universe. It created everything because that's what God or source or whatever you want to call that being is unconditional pure love personified. So everything in this universe has a piece of that love in it. Every blade of grass, every pebble of sand, every being, every life form on every planet, every star, every nebula, everything you know and everything you don't know has got a piece of that love inside of it inherently. So, when we experience love as a human being, we're going through a huge filter. I mean, the love we experience, the closest we come to love on the other side is when two people love each other and create a child. I mean, we even in our limited form, we can create life from love. So if you can do that on this side, imagine what you could do on the other side without limits.
Amazing.
There's just no comparison.
Mm.
So anyway, when I came out of this life review, to get back to that part, um, uh, I was completely broken, and like I said, to this day, 40, and this has been 40 years since my last near-death experience. I'm 54, and this happened when I was 14. To this day, every time I close my eyes, I see those kids that I hurt.
Oh,
Every single time. There's times I can't sleep because of it. Every time I feel like I can't go on, I can't do anything more, I get reminded of what I did. It's like it comes unbidden to my mind, and it motivates me to keep going. And it's like because this thing was so, I did so much harm, and as a being, I know the kind of person that I am. And the person I try to be in every life is a helpful person who never would hurt anybody. And so to know that a form that I took caused this much harm in one lifetime, for me, it's like finding out I was Hitler. It's that deeply effective of me, where it feels like I was the worst kind of person on the planet. I know I wasn't the worst, but it feels like I was to a
A-
person like me.
Andrew, let me, if I may, let me ask you a question about that. So you
Sure.
said that you are, still closing your eyes and seeing the pain and the suffering that you caused. At what point do you feel, or can you possibly see down the road, that part of your journey might be learning to forgive the self? Because if you don't forgive yourself for what you did, then that means you're not loving yourself totally. And if you can't love yourself totally, you can't love others totally. Have you ever thought about that?
I have, and honestly, you're probably about the 100th person this year alone who said that same thing to me. Um, for me, it's forgiveness is a part of it, but it's hard to describe where forgiving myself is not the solution, if that makes sense. Um, what I need um, is to do what I can, basically do what I can do in this life to make up for what I didn't do in that life. And I actually, the one, if you want a silver lining, earlier this past year in October, like this past year or so, my guide and I have been in regular contact, like almost every day, which
Hmm.
I didn't talk to him hardly at all for 10 years.
Oh,
When
really?
I kind of cut my, yeah, because like after I think I mentioned in my last interview with you that I had traveled around for 22 years
Hmm.
talking to various groups and participating in panel discussions. So that was like 1994 to 2016. But after that point, I couldn't do it anymore. First, it was financially, then it was physically. So I had to kind of give up that side of things. And for a long time, I I don't know why, I just felt cut off from that part of myself. And it was hard to kind of find my way back to it. And actually, what happened is January of last year, I stumbled across this. Well, I won't say stumbled across. I was meant to find
Oh,
this group on Facebook that's a near death experience group.
mm-hmm.
It's run by a guy named Ned. He's
Yep.
a good friend of mine now.
Yep. If those of
And
you who are listening, go to that website. It's near death experiences. I think he's got, how many followers does he have now?
600,000 at this point.
600,000. I think it's the number one most
Hmm.
followed near death experience Facebook groups out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
like it's the biggest Facebook group for near death experiences in the world,
in the
as I
world.
found out.
That's great. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Ned and I are good friends. I found this group, and then about a month after I joined, I became a moderator. So I joined his admin team, and that really exposed me to a lot of different people, and it kind of brought me back into the fold, if you will, of near death experiences, and I felt like I'd almost never left because I just picked right back up where I left off. And I think I've accomplished more in the past year alone than I accomplished in all 22 years that I was traveling all over the place.
Wow.
Because I can reach more people like I'm doing right now than I could in 100 get-togethers in groups of
Right.
12 or 20 people. So, um, but it really has. I was talking about October. My guide and I have been in regular contact this year ever since I came back into this whole world. He is. Uh, he's always been there. I think I felt his presence there, but it was like I needed to kind of settle and find myself for a while and figure out what my next step was. And then once I came back in, he was like, he felt like he'd always been there. He was just kind of waiting for me to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so he and I have been in regular contact. And as of October this past year, he told me that the part of that reason that I came back to this lifetime to atone, I've actually accomplished that goal already. Like I dedicated myself so much to it over the last 40 years that so everything I do from this point on is bonus. That's how he basically put it to me.
That's good.
So
Extra bonus points are good.
yeah, it just, and people have asked me like, does that change how you want to do things? Like, do you want to just like rest on your laurels? And I keep telling them, no, not only do I not want to rest on my laurels, I want to redouble my efforts because what I did for the last 40 years not only accomplished that goal, but it gave me a purpose. It gave me my life back. And it showed me that I could make something good out of something horrible,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something harmful. And so what I've done in this life has, I've been helping people and reaching out to them and like helping them express their near death experiences, which that I think that and people who have lost a loved one to suicide
Mm-hmm.
are when I talk to people about those two things, I think those are the ones I remember the most because people who are afraid to talk about their near death experiences are so bottled up, like they have this emotion that they don't know what to do with. And then people who've lost a loved one to suicide, a lot of them have come from a religious background
Hmm.
where they've
And
been
they're
taught
worried.
that this is a bad thing. Yeah, like they're gonna, their loved one is going to hell, or
Hmm.
they're being punished because of this. Um, and I keep thinking, I actually attempted suicide twice in my younger years. Um, once when I was 16, once when I was 22. And I can assure you from my own personal experience, not only did I not go to hell, not only did I not go to hell for what I did in my past life, which is the worst thing. If I was going to go to hell for anything, it would have been that previous lifetime that I've been atoning for in this one, and I didn't. So I can assure you that hell not only does not exist, it could not exist on the other side, because the other side is nothing but love, and something that evil, something that punishing, something that wrong, inherently wrong, can't exist where love is. So that's why I tell people who have lost loved ones to suicide. It's like, not only are your loved ones not being punished for that, like why would someone why would a being who created everything in this universe, all the beauty and the wonder of it, and these beings that are so full of love, why would this being create all of this and then punish somebody for suffering?
Right.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
And beyond just logic, it just doesn't make sense. So
So,
that's
Andrew,
what I try to tell
if,
people. Go ahead.
if I can ask you, so getting back to this near death experience, once you experienced what you needed to on the other side in terms of the empathy that you needed to feel and the understanding of what you had done to these families and these people. So what at that point, how were you told it was time to go back to Earth? It was time
Uh,
to go back to your life.
well, I can tell you from when that life review ended till when I actually went back was a long time. First of all, uh, because I basically, just as a quick overview, I mentioned this a few minutes ago. I spent 5 years traveling all around this galaxy and part of Andromeda. I saw everything. I saw beings, or evidence of other civilizations that either were existed now or had existed in the past. You can see evidence of it.
That's so
I
exciting.
actually,
To me,
yeah, I
that
actually
is
met two
just,
of them.
oh, did you?
Oh yeah, one of them was the species my guide belonged to. He'd actually telepathically guided me to them, because he wanted me to understand his background like he understood mine, because he's been with me since I've been on Earth. So going back almost like 350 years. And so he wanted to show me what his life was like, what his species was like, the same way that he understood me. And I think that one experience brought us closer. Like, I think of him like brother doesn't even describe it. It's like, if you can imagine, a brother and a soulmate wrapped into one.
Mhm.
That's how he and I are. Like, we know we're simpatico in every way. We think the same. We feel the same. It's why he felt an attachment to me right away, and why he volunteered to be my guide. And then when I met his species and saw his life, it's like I felt like he could understand me because of what he'd been through as his with his species.
Did he give you the name of his species?
He did. The problem is, even his name, um,
Oh, the per
in order to pronounce, the problem with a lot of species is they don't obviously speak English, or they don't speak any Earth language, and some of them have physical structures that they use to create specific sounds that are part of their language or part of their name, part of their, like, some of them they actually sing their story. as instead of speaking it, like one of his ancestors. That's how they pass on their lineage is that way. If you've ever seen the movie Enemy Mine, it's sort of like that. If you're familiar with that movie.
I don't think I have seen that.
Yeah, it's 1985. It's Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. where it's a man, it's a human and an alien that end up stranded together during a war, and this man learns this alien's lineage, which has to be sung in a specific way, so that he can introduce this alien's son to his species and have him join. And so it's like a way for humans and this alien species to bridge the gap.
Hmm.
But it's a really beautiful movie. If you've never seen it, you should. It's but anyways, so there's some species that they sing their lineage that same way, and in order to pronounce his name, in order to speak his language, you need specific parts that we
Hmm.
just don't have.
Right, because their sounds, again, their vibration, everything is different than
Yeah,
what
it's just
we
like
think.
like if you wanted to imitate a bird, we don't have a beak,
Right,
we don't have the way that they can speak.
right.
It's not the same way the humans do. So even on our planet, we have species that we can't imitate for the same reason. We don't have
Hmm.
the physical ability.
Right.
So, but yes, he did tell me what his species name was. He told me that his name was. My friend Barbara Gale, who's a medium, actually saw him during a Zoom call that we did, several of us, and she said his name sounded a bit like Millie, which is I thought was interesting. Um, but yeah, his language, if you could imagine somebody speaking a Romance language like Italian, mixed with a sing-songy voice, that's how their language sounds to me.
Sounds
It's
pretty.
it's beautiful. It's like the most calming. It's like ASMR on steroids. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Like I could listen to him talk all day long. Um, and it's just the most beautiful sound, and I cannot. There's nothing like it on Earth. And I wish that I could record it just to play it back for people so they could
Right.
understand why it affects me so
Have
much.
you ever felt an unexplainable fear? A deep connection to a place you've never been? Or patterns in your life you just can't seem to break? These aren't random thoughts. These are to look deeper, to heal, to remember. At JT Introspective Hypnosis, I help you access the answers already within you through the power of guided polydimensional travel and the place your soul takes you in order to heal. Because the truth is, you're not lost. You're just waiting to be found. Learn more and book your session at www.julianathon.com.
But so anyway, I saw most of the galaxy. I met two alien species, including his. Um, I also spent 5 years, like I said, learning about the future of humanity. There's actually a an interactive thing on the other side that's laid out like if you're familiar with what a storyboard is on a movie,
Sure.
where they have every scene laid out and what's going to happen in that scene,
Right.
what angles we want to shoot at, and everything, all that. So it's like that, but it's interactive where you can focus on one part of the process, and it's like you're living that part of the process as it's being done. You can see the future,
Hmm.
so I could actually see these parts being played out. Now, I will say that the timeline of this process is malleable because it's
Right.
dependent on
Free.
human free will.
Yeah. Right. Right. But
Because everything, it's not just individual decisions, but group decisions. Sometimes, like you get a group of people that think the same way, it can affect either positively or negatively the timeline of that process. But the outcome of that process, the eventual goal of it, is the part that is not in question and is not up for debate. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when.
Where did they give you something that you're able to share with us in terms of
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can share
humanity,
anything I want from it.
the
It's
the
not a
future?
big secret.
Good.
Yeah, it's
I'm talking about
basically
humanity's future.
yes. Yeah, so basically first of all, things are going to get worse before they get better. We're already in that process right now. As you can probably imagine from what's going on not only in this country in America, but also around the world because of that. Things are getting worse. And things unfortunately have to get worse before they get better because the people in charge, um, the people with the power and the wealth, are the ones who have to be affected directly in order to change the way things are done. And right now, they're not being affected. They are immune to that. So it has to reach a point where they are affected. So things unfortunately just have to get worse so that they can be affected. Once they're affected, then things start to change on a very fast basis.
Rapid. Okay.
Rapid. I mean, like just that one part alone could take probably most of a century, but once you do that, it could be 30, 40, 50 years. And, you can accomplish more in that short period of time than you accomplished in that last 2 or 3 centuries before it. I mean, this whole process started with the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in Europe in the late 1700s, early 1800s. So it's been going on that long already.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, there are a dozen species from other planets that are watching us right now as we speak. Telepathically, they are watching us and guiding us. Um, they are partially protecting not only us, but they're making sure we don't kill ourselves. First of all, like we won't have a nuclear war. They're also making sure that there's no threat from outside that can like an asteroid or a comet or a rogue planet that they steer these things away from us
Right.
if there's anything that becomes a threat. But they do it in a way where it's subtle and we don't notice it, and then they telepathically can alter our thought process in a way where we don't know what they're doing. They can also manipulate us in a way where they can kind of guide us towards a goal without us realizing that it's being done. So, but they're basically our protectors,
Mm-hmm.
these species, and they are far enough away. I'll give you one thing I will tell you is telepathy does not have a limit. You can telepathically communicate across the entire galaxy instantly
That's
because I
amazing.
did that. So it has no limits. It's not like verbal or radio communication or even light speed. There's no on the other side. There's no limits, and they are able to tap directly into the other side. They're that advanced in their evolution where the other side is directly accessible to them. Um, so they are watching us telepathically from a distance. To we don't have the ability to see them. They're able to access other realms of reality, higher realms like fourth, fifth dimension, things like that. So that we are not able to see them physically, but they are always watching us. And the reason why is because what we're going through is called a transition phase.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that every species in existence goes through at some point in their evolution. It can be at any point, it doesn't matter when. And what this transition phase does, if you can imagine every species in the universe being on a 1 to 100 scale, where 1 is you're barely out of the caves, 100 is as close to being God or source as you can get. Most of most of the species in existence fall between the 40 and 80 on that scale, about 70 to 80%. The other 20 to 30% is split almost evenly between 10 to 40 or 0 to 40 and 80 to 100.
Mm.
And most of them are around the bottom end. So we're like a 25. if you want to put us on that scale. And once you get into the 30s range on that scale is where you start to understand that we're not separated individuals. We start to think more as a conjoined species, connected. We start to think more as a universal. We think more in universal terms. We think of what would benefit the whole versus the individual.
So it sounds like
Uh,
it's definitely the difference between 3D, which we're in now, versus the 5D that we talk about is happening. The Earth shift, our shift inside.
yeah, it's just more we have to like right now we think of ourselves most of us think of ourselves as separated individuals where what happens only happens to us. We
Right.
don't understand that we're fully connected, that what we do affects everything and
Hmm.
everybody.
Hmm.
The people who have had near death experiences understand this intimately in a way that nobody else does. Um, and that's why we're sent back is to help move things in a direction where eventually the beings who have the most effect on the process are able to come in and kind of give it the last little kick to get it moving.
Hmm.
And so all of us, there's millions of us right now who have come here from other planets for a specific reason because to assist a species through this transition phase is considered the highest honor that
Wow.
any species could have. So like I said, every species goes through it, and it doesn't happen as often anymore because more species have already transitioned. But when it does happen, it's it's something that beings they come from far and wide. Everybody wants to be part of it. It's like being able to go back in time and see early humans. Um, so it's like being able to see themselves when they went through the transition.
Well, and I also
And
hear that there's a lot of ETs out there, a lot of different species that really they have a particular regard or respect for humans because of the difficulties we have to go through here because we have emotions and the
mhm.
type of physical aspects of the body that they don't have on other planets rather.
Yeah, not
They
just our emotions, but also we have almost not really a unique, but a very rare ability to think outside the box, to think of solutions that might not present themselves automatically. We have the ability to see multiple levels of a problem and find the one that works the best. And
Mhm.
this is something that a lot of species don't have.
Mm.
And so eventually our goal, once we transition, like once you get into the 30s in that uh, scale I was telling you about, is where you start to get to the point of transitioning. When you want to go from the 30s to the 40s, is where you transition. And once you get into the 40s, you start being able to communicate telepathically, like we do on the other side.
Mm.
As you move up that scale, you're able to access other realms. You're able to access the other side directly without having to die first. You have longer lifespans. So everything changes as you evolve.
Mhm.
And the eventual goal for humanity is for us to become teachers. And this is something that is very close to my heart personally because that's what I am. I just found this out more recently with a little bit of numerology guiding that I'm actually what they call a master teacher mixed with a nurturer healer. So I act on a more of a global scale. But teaching others is something that really brings me more fulfillment than anything else. Being able to help someone understand something that they couldn't understand before
Mhm.
is something that really is very key, is very kind, very close to my heart. And so, understanding and seeing what humanity will become, as far as higher level beings that become teachers for other species to teach them the unique traits that we have that others don't have. And we're actually going, once we transition, once we evolve, we're going to have a profound effect on this part of the galaxy, a profound effect. And I cannot even emphasize that enough.
So I know that
Um,
there is no time. That's time is a linear concept that we as human beings have designed here on the earth. But that said, how long, or did they give you any indication of how long this evolution is going to take
it
for us
takes,
to get to, what did you say, to get to level 30 or 40? Or did you say 50?
yeah, just transition kind of happens between the 30s and 40s is where you
Okay.
start to go from thinking as a separated individual versus thinking as a
Okay.
connected individual.
Okay.
And so that is where that's the transition we have to go through consciously.
Right. But how long did they?
That takes several hundred years on average. For us, it might take a little longer because we're still very attached to three things that a species has to abandon in order to evolve. And that one of them is a political structure of control. Number two is a monetary system where you put a value on things, and that, uh, and then the third thing is religion. And religion is something that has played out on other planets in different ways. It's not always called or acts the same way, but the idea is putting onto a uh, an invisible being all of your problems, everything you don't understand, instead of trying to understand them, instead of trying to find the solution yourself. You put it on. Oh well, it's part of God's plan, God's will. And instead of doing that, it's that's what we have to change. Is get rid of that. And so it's a transition from religion to spirituality. And
So
that
it
difference is it becomes more of a personal journey.
well, and that's what um, lots of individuals who have channeled that I've had conversations with during their channeling have said, is that this shift that we say is going to happen between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. A lot of people are focusing on the physical aspects of that.
Mhm.
Does the earth really split, or does a second earth really come about and then we leave this earth and go to the next? A lot of
No.
individuals that have channeled information said, no, this is very clearly something that happens within you as an individual.
Yeah, because as we evolve, we open our minds and our beings to higher realms, to other ways of being. We are able to connect to things that we can't even see now.
Right, right,
And so it's about evolving ourselves, and all these realms exist around us. They're around us every single day. We just can't see them. We
right,
can't experience them. But
right.
once you evolve, you can.
But
And
regarding
that's the
the
difference.
three things that you spoke of when you said um, religion was the last thing that you said, and then
Yeah,
you
politics
also
and money are
said
the other two.
politics and monetary value on things. Um,
Right.
you know, what a great time that we have chosen to be here on this earth, because look what's happening.
Hmm.
The organized religions that are starting to change. Congregations are getting smaller and smaller.
Hmm.
Um, regarding politics, oh, do I need to even go there? Look at what is happening politically right now, just to the
It's a
United
mess, but it
States.
has to be. Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, the fact that valuation that takes place, which has to do with the material world, all of those things are changing right now. It seems that a lot of that is being brought to the surface for
Right.
us as
We're
human.
having our attention brought to it
Right.
finally.
And we're beginning to see now, oh, this is what's going on. This is, I don't, I'm not going to stand for this. This is not the way that we should be living.
Yeah.
Uh,
See, politics, money, and religion. The two things they have in common. One, they divide us. They're used to divide us and to control us. Um, but
Here, here.
also they keep us rooted in the physical world where we aren't able to evolve and transition. And that's why I said, in order to transition fully, we have to abandon those three things because they are nothing but a crutch. They're a crutch there that's keeping us. It's like if you can imagine breaking your leg and your leg's actually fine now, but you just keep leaning on that same crutch because you're afraid to walk on your own.
Exactly.
It's like that,
Yeah,
but spiritually.
that's a great analogy. And I think that the changes that we're seeing right now, hopefully, is there to help us understand that we don't need that necessarily anymore. A lot of the answers we have from within. Let me ask you a question. So you're getting back to your near-death experience. So you're traveling now, right?
Hmm.
You're going around the cosmos, so to speak. At what point did you decide, and why did you decide to come back into this lifetime?
Okay, so after I did my travels, I came back. I spent time learning about the future of humanity, also the future of the universe. Um, and after that is when I I kind of I felt a pull to come back here. Like, okay, I've learned all this stuff. I've got all this knowledge now, and now I need to apply it. And so I need to go back to do that. And so unlike the first time where I was sent back, this time was more like I need to go back.
So
I don't
did you
like
have
the
a
idea. I hate
choice?
it, but I have to go back. Yeah,
Did,
you always have a choice, but for the most part, beings are either convinced to come back or forced to for whatever because they haven't finished what they need to do, or there's some part they need to play that without them goes a whole different way.
mm-hmm.
And so the one thing we have to understand is that every single being, there's no waste when it comes to beings. All of us play a part in what's going on. Whether it's a big part or a small part doesn't matter. You know, people think, well, if I'm not like the famous person out front that getting all the attention, like it's not even worth my time or my money or my
Right.
whatever. But what you got to realize is that the majority of stuff that gets done behind the scenes. You don't even see what's going on. It's all the little things behind the scenes working together, the little cogs all meshing together that keeps things running and makes things happen. So it's not the big attention getting things that you see readily out in the world. It's the little things you don't see that make the most difference. So that's what I'm saying. Like people, all of us are part of that plan, not just the beings who are originally from Earth, but the beings who came here, like myself and others. Like I said, there's millions of us right now on Earth who came from elsewhere to help with this transition because we, like I said, all beings. This is a huge honor to be part of this process for any species, and humanity has a brilliant future ahead of it. And I don't say that, as a, well, we're going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. No. Well, there are other species that are better than us, and there's always something better. There's always something more evolved. There's always something
More advanced.
more powerful, whatever the case might be. There's always something more. But we're going to have, like I said, a profound effect on this part of our galaxy to the point where we're going to teach thousands of species to do things they can't do right now. And that is hugely important. Hugely important. And we have no idea how much yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like when I say that, I don't mean they don't know. They know. We don't know how important that is yet. But like what I saw at the end of that process was, I'll put it this way, it puts Star Trek to shame. And people want to live in that Star Trek world where
Wow.
all humans are together and, we're all about exploring the galaxy and money has no effect on us anymore. We do things purely for exploration and interest and whatever. This puts Star Trek to shame. I mean, imagine being able to explore the galaxy with no limits, being able to do what I did on the other side, but doing it while you're incarnated in this universe.
It's just amazing. That's just absolutely amazing.
I mean, I can't even describe how amazing it is.
Well, uh, it's it's wonderful that in both of your near-death experiences, you understood or were made to understand what it is that you need to do as an individual when you come back on this earth. But you also were shown the amazement in how we are going to progress as a
Right.
species. And I
Not just
mean,
us as a species, but the universe.
you're right, right. And how
Like,
cool is
there's one thing
that?
I want to mention about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I could tell about the universe, but there's one in particular that has come to pass this year alone. Um, for 20 or 30 years, there's been two main schools of thought when it comes to the end of the universe. One is that things will keep expanding forever because of dark energy. Dark energy has the effect of making things expand. Um, Dark matter tends to connect things and want to bring them together. And so far, dark energy has been is like is considered the majority. Like they think that 90 to 95% of the universe is dark energy or dark matter, and the majority of it is dark energy right now. So that's why we're still expanding at an exponential rate. But there's a school of thought that thinks that we're going to keep expanding forever, and eventually stars aren't going to be able to form, and they'll run out of nuclear fuel, and they'll just start dying out. And what we'll do is die of what's called a heat death, where you have basically everything just goes cold and dark in the universe, like trillions of years from now. The other school of thought thinks that eventually dark energy and dark matter will reach an equilibrium and things will start to progress back in the other direction, bringing things back together towards where it came from. And then that school of thought breaks into two parties. One that thinks when all that matter and energy reaches the point of where it cannot compact anymore, that it's going to implode. And then the other party thinks that it gets shunted off into an alternate universe. All of them are wrong. And just this year, I was shown this 40 years ago, and I talked about it multiple times. And then all of a sudden, I ran across multiple articles that show there's a project called DESI, DESI, which stands for Dark Energy I think Spectroscopic Instrument, if I'm not mistaken. It's a land-based like package, like multiple packages of instruments, and what it does is measure the level of dark energy in the universe. And what they believed for so long is that dark energy has been at a constant level since the Big Bang, and so has the level of expansion. They found out they're wrong. It's not. It has been slowing down for billions of years, which points to the equilibrium theory being the correct one. That is the first part of what I was shown. But then the other side of this is once everything comes back together, and it's just like if you can imagine the Big Bang came out of this massive explosion where everything just exploded in every direction. So imagine all that coming back together. There's a point past which it cannot compact anymore, where everything is just there's no room in between anymore. So what happens at that point? And that's where the two theories have been wrong. And this other um, project, and I don't remember the name of it for the life of me, but it's basically the data that they had has shown that the universe, whenever this stuff comes to wherever it ends up at, it rebounds off of itself. Like imagine like the immovable object and the unstoppable force running into each other. They don't annihilate each other, but they just keep going in different directions.
Hmm.
So that's like you can like an unstoppable force, you can't stop it. An immovable object can't be moved, but you can have the unstoppable force be channeled in a different direction, it's still moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just moving somewhere else. So what they think is that this energy will bounce off of itself in, from every direction and channel itself into another big bang. And
Oh,
the second part of that is it's already happened before multiple times. And what I was shown during my second year of experience is that this is not the first iteration of the universe, it's the ninth. Like this
uh,
has happened 8 times.
are you saying of this universe, or are you saying of all universal existence?
Well, just the universe in general, it's different every time. There's different, like there's some stars that don't, either don't form, or start new stars that get made, planets that develop or don't develop, species that develop or don't develop. So there's always differences in every iteration of the universe, but
But
it's the
I'm
same universe recycling over and over again.
okay. But what I'm talking about is the multiverse theory means that we have many, many, an infinite, actually, amount of universes. So
Yeah,
are you talking about this, that universe that we exist in now, or all of them? And will they all be changing differently, like you said?
yeah, like the multiverse, the main theory that I've seen to explain that is that whenever a choice exists or comes into existence, there's a universe where that choice was made, and a choice where a universe where it wasn't made, and so each of those creates a separate universe or a separate place where different things happen because of that. And so, um, from what I understand, this universe is the main kind of the central hub of the multiverse. Everything's connected to it. So when it rebounds into a new big bang, and recycles into a new universe, everything starts over. So the multiverse gets recreated each time in a different way. In the same way, this universe gets recreated in a different way. Like I said, some stars exist that didn't the last time around, or do, or that did, species that develop and don't develop, planets that exist and don't exist. There's always differences, and all those differences create a completely different experience for us to have as beings. Because you got to remember all the bodies that exist, all the physical universe bodies that we inhabit, that we incarnate in. That's how we exist in this universe, and so that part has to remain constant. But where they are and what they do can be completely different. So it creates a whole new set of experiences for us to have. And the multiverse is done the exact same way. So everything starts over from that one point. So when you recycle into a new Big Bang, it's like it recreates the multiverse again, and so
Wow.
everything comes back together at one point, and then starts all over again. So it's like, bing bang boom, everything starts expanding again. Uh, Choices get made differently because there's different choices to make.
Right.
Um, Different species are able to do different things, and so the multiverse gets remade, but in a different way than it did the last time or the time before that. So, like I said, this is the ninth iteration of that. So we've already done this 8 times,
Wow. Wow.
and
Gosh.
it's infinite. It's infinite.
Well, I know
There's no end to the universe.
that
Anybody thinks the universe is going to end in like however many billion years, and it doesn't.
that's and that concept of infinity is, of course, with our little puny linear minds, is really hard to fathom. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly is for me.
Well,
So,
if you think of it this way, we are meant to have an infinite level of experiences. You know, the way our beings are shaped and evolve and develop is dependent on our experiences in this universe. Every time we incarnate, we create a new experience, and that gets added to our repertoire, so to speak. And so the more experiences you can have, the more varied and the more deep and the more amazing your being becomes. So having this infinite universe that keeps recycling over and over again, it never ends. Like if the universe ended, first of all, it would violate the first law of thermodynamics, which says energy can neither be created nor destroyed; it can only change form. That's a basic law of physics. So if the universe ended, that law would be violated right off the bat. So it has to go on in some form. So that alone is why those other theories have been wrong for so long, but they didn't have anything else to replace it with until now. So, but yeah, that infinite universe, I'll tell you,
No, it's
it's hard
just
to wrap your mind around, even on the other side. Believe me.
we could have another episode just about that. I mean, we literally I can see that you're a wealth of information and experience, and you have been able to put this stuff together beautifully. And
I
you,
got handed it. Literally, my guide has been working with me this whole past year to put all the pieces together and to understand things that I couldn't understand before. I've spent a decade cut off from all of it. I think it was to prepare me for this.
yeah, yeah. But it's like you said, it's what you do with that information that is important.
Yeah, like
So,
I got to use it to help people.
in all of your wisdom and all of your experience, if there is something that you wanted our viewers to walk away with regarding today's conversation and even the first episode that we did with your first near-death experience, what would that be?
Hmm. First of all, be the kindest being that you can be, because believe me when I say from personal experience, you will regret if you harm others, you're going to regret it for a long time. Um, Even though I have atoned for what I did in my previous life, I still feel that every single day. It still affects my decision making every single day. I still see it every day. So it never goes away. And then on top of that, um, help each other, because that's what we're meant to do. We're connected to each other in ways that you cannot even possibly imagine. And so the reason we're put on this earth or on any planet is to help each other, to work together to solve the problems that each one of us individually cannot solve.
Absolutely.
So, helping each other is the central idea behind our existence. That's what we're meant to do. Is just be there for each other, help each other, lift each other up. If you see someone struggling, reach out your hand, help them up. You know, don't stop ignoring each other, stop hurting each other and help. Because that makes us so much better in the long run, and it makes each one of us better as an individual.
Well, and it's exhibiting kindness. And you're right. I do also believe that as human beings, that's one of the most important things we were put on this earth to learn and um, to experience ourselves is the understanding that kindness is extremely important.
Love, even more than kindness, more than empathy, sympathy, compassion. All of those are aspects of love.
Love,
And
absolutely.
love is the energy of the entire universe. It's what everything is created from. It's in everything that you are, everything that you see, everything you don't see. Love is the entire universe. Everything is all like the entirety of creation is love. So every time you act out of love, every time that you feel love, every time that you put more love out into the universe, you're adding to that energy,
Mm-hmm.
and then not only you adding to it, it adds to you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the best way you can exist, is to put more love out there, and love comes back to you.
at some point in time, I would like to have you back so you can discuss more about the universe and other things that you learned that we weren't able to get in today's episode. Because I just think it's so interesting. And I think that a lot of the information that you are imparting is really important for us to hear. That's the whole reason that you're here today. That's the whole reason that I designed this podcast, is because I believe that it's about getting the word out there about love, about kindness, about the different holistic ways that we can love one another and heal ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, just how we could be better beings, as a whole.
Right. And I just want to thank you again, Andrew, so much for being on our show again. This has been a lovely hour and whatever it's been, hour and a half or whatever it's been. I just appreciate you sharing your amazing experience. And I hope, as I started to say, that your stories will really and truly enlighten many viewers and even put minds at ease that, in fact, there is an afterlife. And in making our transition from this life to beyond the veil, we have nothing to fear.
Oh, not only nothing to fear, but it's better than anything you can possibly imagine. There is no comparison here to that. So if you're afraid of that, you're a fool. No,
Right.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing we learn through stories such as yourself is to trust. Trust who we are. Trust what we're here and meant to do. Trust the universe.
Trust the being that created us, because he created us from love. Every time you act out of love, you're doing what you're meant to do. So that being created us. So trust your creation. Trust who you are as a being to be a better being, to help others, to be better as a person, and by doing that, you'll be doing what you're supposed to be doing.
It's beautiful. So, to everyone tuning in, if something in this episode resonated with you, I invite you to join this conversation and be sure and leave a comment below. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share Souls on Tap with someone who's ready for deeper conversations. Your support, remember, helps these stories reach the people who are meant to hear them. So again, Andrew, a third thank you, an infinite amount of thank yous. And for all of you out there, until next time, trust the remembering, follow the call, and keep your soul curious. And we'll see you on Souls on Tap.
Thank you for having me.